work. I'll probably just spend one day gathering information, meeting with staff, understanding processes, probably charting some internal control, and from that they'll develop a list of things for us to prepare called PDCs, prepare by client. And then we'll have about a month to work on those and get them ready to go. I anticipate beginning the full audit on September 22nd, and I expect to have a list of points for us, questions that we respond to, and get those back to them in October, and so that means we should have a report for all 4 years completed in November.
President's Day holiday is somewhat problematic from a management point of view because we're the only ones that get that holiday on the airport side. People want to take the holiday, but if they work, I'm paying overtime, and I would recommend we add a floating holiday where people can use it between the holidays or at their leisure throughout the year where it doesn't impact operations. The typical shutdown period is between Christmas and New Year's. Most of the large tenants literally shut down, and that is when I would encourage the use of the floaters. Specifically, we actually thought about actually changing it out for a holiday on Christmas Eve or New Year's, something, one of those, but I'd rather just make it a floater and try to encourage some staff to use it during the holidays. And that staff number pretty much wraps it up. I gotta admit, I don't know what the extra $1,500 is, and I'd call on Karina.
So in the past on President's Day, because we had to have staff working and it was a holiday, we were paying holiday rates, overtime wages. So we anticipate now that they can just take the holiday whenever they want to take it, we're not paying out that additional overtime cost. So that's why we anticipate actually having a cost savings by eliminating President's Day.
Okay. Typically, I mean, I can speak for myself only, but I just notice in how people use them. A lot of people use them at the very front end of the year. I typically never use them or just use them during the holidays, but you'll always find me in here during the holidays because there's nobody else here and I can get a lot done. That's why I do my prep for the next year. But
Terry's going to end up tracking that, or who's going to end up?
Absolutely, we track it. We can tell you exactly who uses it and when. We get timesheet reports on everything, but that has my recommendation.
Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the new holiday schedule as presented.
I'll move item C to adopt the resolution regarding the holiday schedule.
Second.
A motion by Director Balentine, second by Director Deaver. Are there any questions?
It's shifted, moved over the course of years, and his words are, it's growing like a loaf of bread in an oven. He's asked for reimbursement for total invoice.
1874. $1,874. And we don't have any precedent on this. I asked some questions. Dick asked me about this ahead of time, and I said, no, we will redo the asphalt, but the concrete in the hangar is up to the purpose. People either own it or bought it, and I don't know if he built it. That was 20, 30 years before my time. I don't know who did the soil samples. I'm sure, I don't even know if there were permits on these hangars. There were?
There were.
Okay, so I really don't have any knowledge on this, but when he asked for pre-approval, I did not, and now he's asking the board to reimburse. That's your call.
Has this ever come up before?
Not on my watch.
I don't recall in all the years that I've been going to the meetings. And it's considered the hangar owner's responsibility.
It has been in the past.
Yeah.
I can't see supporting it. So.
There's no prior request for this.
He asked me ahead of time if we would pay, and I said, we'll do the asphalt, which the taxi lanes are our responsibility, which we did. And we actually redid that one because it did shift over time. But I said the hangars, the concrete in the hangars is the responsibility of the owner.
Did he pay for that concrete, or did the airport pay for it?
No, he paid for this.
No.
We didn't pay for this.
No, he paid for it.
Well, you're talking about this or the
Because
original?
there are several hangars on that road.
So from time to time, I bring things before the board, and usually the board would want to know, does this have your recommendation or not? I have already said no once. Now we have a request that goes before the board.
Motion to deny.
Second. Actually, we don't have to take any action. It's about as easy as.
It's on the
Yeah, but somebody has to make a motion,
Well,
either way.
if you wouldn't mind me weighing in on this,
Yeah.
I think if I were standing up there and I brought something like this before the board, I would want you to tell me yes or no. Not taking action is,
Okay, fine, that's like in the motion.
Okay,
Let's be definitive.
There you go.
I have a motion by Director Evans, second by Director Deaver to deny the request.
Is there, what's your level of having looked into this? Are you familiar with what's, I mean, reading the thing here, it's a little hard to tell exactly what.
Al, I've been in the hangar, I've looked at it, it's clearly the concrete has shifted, but I can walk into my garage that was built 40 years ago and I can tell you there's a crack down the middle and that concrete is shifted. Concrete is not a forever thing. It is a chemistry project that takes 29 years to cure. And if you don't get the subgrade exactly right, it will, over time, marry the subgrade. There are people in the concrete business who have tried for thousands of years to get that exactly right. And I don't know where you draw the line of, okay, is this just because it's our dirt underneath it, or did they prepare it properly?
I'm trying to understand, so he says the foot that at one time was level with the hangar floor. What is he talking about with the foot?
The front end of the hangar is lifted, the concrete has lifted up slightly to where if you push an airplane in from the taxiway, it's now higher in its lip.
How much higher?
When he tries to, when it rains and his hangar fills with water, it doesn't run out any longer, there's no drain in it. And so he had to redo the concrete. That's it.
I don't want to get in the habit of making a warranty on it.
Call for the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's to deny? Motion was to.
That's to deny.
Better take a roll.
Okay, let's take a roll.
Director Balentine? Director Peterson?
Aye.
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 Run an engineering company. From time to time, I would recommend employees, and at one time, I was recommended for this particular course. And over the past 5-6 years, we've invested in the undergraduate education and college degrees of 2 of our employees, 3 of our employees. I am now recommending 2 to attend management action programs, which is a 2.5-day course. I'd call it a management tune-up with peers from all different industries around the world, or the country, that come together in Orange County. I called and got an estimate for 2 seats, and I asked your approval, but I have 2 employees I'd like to invest in at operations and the business manager for back office.
Before we make a motion, can I ask why you're bringing this to the board?
I don't, you're right, I don't have to.
We
Is it
didn't
in your
budget
budget?
for it either.
Oh, so it's outside of the budget?
It's outside of the budget, and you're right, I do, but I've made it a habit of anything personnel-wise, Al, I usually bring to the board in open session.
So we didn't budget for any training?
We do have a small budget for it. I can look it up while you guys discuss, but it's not gonna include this much.
Al, we basically zeroed out training this year to make our budget. That was before we knew we had a deal with the wind industry. And I have not put anybody through this course That's not true. I brought this course to the airport, and we did the course here in a day once 10 years ago, and I did send Tom Wheel through this course in his second year.
My gut reaction is to send it back to you and say, you know, you need to implement your training as you see necessary. I don't think this needs board approval, but that's just my personal.
We have $10,000 allocated in the budget for employee training for the whole year. So,
And you're within budget so far.
That's the pleasure of the board. I'm fine with that. I just want to bring it before the board and have your
Either
opinion.
way, I'll give you a motion to approve it.
I'll give you the second. And I think there's two very deserving individuals too, by the way.
Okay, the chair has a motion by Director Balentine, second by Director Deaver to approve the request to send two people to this training, the MAP 2.5-day workshop for a total of $8,150.
Reward employees with merit increases. This year, I'd like to, or this particular time, I'd like to recognize Business Manager Carrie Rollins and ask you to approve a $3 per hour merit increase. Then we brought before the board in December of last year our recommendations on reorganization. We didn't know what was going to happen in February. Since February, we've redesignated positions and allocated the responsibility and accountability of those positions. And I've asked Mike to even weigh in with his opinion and observation, but this has my highest possible recommendation for it.
Yeah, and I would like to wholeheartedly second that. It's been my pleasure to work with a lot of accountants over the years, and recognizing talent is a worthy objective. What I've discovered is if you don't, they're gone, because somebody else will recognize if you don't. I have a formula for folks that I believe merit a little pushing and therefore a little rewarding, and the formula is a combination of technical ability, work ethic, and interpersonal skills, and Carrie's got it all. And I think I started talking with Karina pretty early on about, I think she could step up. I know she could do more if you would push her. And so I really think this is the right move. I think it needs to be done.
I ask your approval.
Just to put in context, $3 per hour is what?
About $6,000 a year.
Yeah, I got that one. What percent if it increases?
I need help.
with that.
I'm guessing it's on the order of 10.
Move to approve.
Curious.
Second.
I'm scary close with that answer. I just don't know the exact number. While we're waiting, Carrie received her bachelor's in accounting here.
I do have a motion on the floor.
Outstanding question.
We'll have questions before we take them. So,
You already have a second.
yes. Motion by Director Balentine, second by Director Deaver.
On Saturday, August 16th, we will have the StarGazer L-1011, the last flying L-1011 in the world, as our plane of the month. This will be a static display only. They will not be able to open the aircraft up because they need air conditioning and everything to do that. It's pretty hot in that big old airplane if there's no air circulating. But it's impressive to stand next to. And I remember another time when we had this airplane on display, a fella had lifted his little girl, she looked to be about 2.5 or 3, up to look in the back of the engine. Bill took the picture. It's just adorable. And, you know, we're planting seeds. She may want to be a pilot or an engineer, aerospace engineer. So I think it's neat to have all different sizes of airplanes, from Joann's little tube to the L-1011.
Excuse me, that airplane was built in Palmdale,
Absolutely.
and when we had it here before, we had a bunch of people who had helped build that airplane with tears in their eyes.
Tears in
Coming
their
down their
eyes,
faces,
yeah.
and the husband and wife that had both worked on the airplane at the same
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
Really impressive.
Ed said that they want to keep her flying until 2020. And,
Kathy, are you sure that's the last one flying in the world?
yeah, he's working on one at China Lake that they're getting ready to ferry to a museum in the south somewhere. But he said this is the last one flying. They had used them in Great Britain as fuelers for refueling aircraft, but they no longer do that. So according to Ed Dunlap, and I figure he probably knows. And their next mission, I think, isn't until 2016 in Florida, and then they have another one in Vandenberg. But of course, Orbital will be working with Stratolaunch too. So pretty neat to have that company here at Mojave Air and Spaceport. Our speaker is Joseph Whiteman, and he's going to be talking about California and the commercial spaceflight industry. And talking about how other states, of course, are trying to woo all of these commercial spaceflight industry to their state. And we have it here. And California needs to step up and try to keep them here. But anyway, he's got a great presentation, and it will be right here in the boardroom at 11. Plane Crazy this month in August is 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. Thank you for your time.
We met at 12:30 today, and our intentions are to meet 12:30 prior to every board meeting. Moving forward till we feel we've got a handle on the financial and recommendations as we move along. We did decide we want to recommend, after some discussion, and maybe Karina and Carrie can elaborate a little bit, was to eliminate our petty cash account with the bank and also our payroll account with the bank. We can go into details why. The petty cash hasn't really been used for several years. Payroll, because it's automated, we believe can be just entered right into the general fund account. It just makes it simple for accounting and gets rid of a couple pieces of paper we have to follow. Also, we did, it was our thought to have item G pull the compensation resolution. We felt we needed to look into the numbers to understand a little more about how they were derived. I think it was maybe it was Stu that came up with some of these numbers here. We just want to have a better understanding of where employees sit in these particular positions and the appropriate numbers if they need to be moved up or down. Anybody else have any comments?
We'll get those, the banking items on the next agenda for the board to discuss and vote on. But we just discussed it in committee meeting. We also discussed, last board meeting, we talked a little bit about banking in general. We discussed the possibility of having a secondary bank. So that's something that we'll bring to the board in the future as well.
New off-roading hobby, and one of the places I went was drove around the perimeter of the airport. And I have to say that in general, I thought the outer fence and the perimeter security looked very good. Good signage, a little bit of trash, but not bad for the new municipal out here in Mojave. So I thought at least the external fence of the airport and the roads going out looked pretty good.
Did we maintain any of those roads outside of the fence?
No, but we certainly maintain that fence. I don't recall a noise complaint, but I've got one. And I received one from Miss Mary O'Donnell on N Street. Very nice, but she made a formal complaint to the FAA in Fresno on an event that occurred here on July 27th when a number of F-18s operating in the area on the weekend came to Mojave because they needed an airport. Edwards was closed, China Lake was closed for the time being, and they came out of Brownfield, or were headed to Brownfield, and we're happy to have them here. They came into an uncontrolled airfield, and they did what Navy guys do coming into runway 30. They did a left-hand pattern and a carrier brake, and they put them right through downtown. And when I talked to the air crew, and found out and looked at the radar tracks that we had to investigate. I found out what they'd done, and they'd flown over downtown at about 500 feet, 4 of them in F model F-18s, which would have been really impressive, but they're also short, just south of the F-35, the loudest jet in the military inventory. And so I talked to the crew, and I said, if you can help me out, just make your break to the east, whether you're on the south runway or the north runway, and keep peace in the village. And they agreed. Then today I saw another Hornet come into the break, and he did a right break right over town, and then I noticed the tower redirected when they put him in the left-hand pattern. But we're educating them. We want their business. Last week the China Lake was weathered out, and the commanding officer landed here. It was the night of the change of command, so while the party of the change of command was going on, the new commander and the old one were sitting here in our pilot lounge waiting for the winds to subside, and this microburst went through, and we were all here a little late. But they bought a lot of gas. They do intend to come back and operate from here on weekends. I think that's good business to have, and it's what we're about. So I actually prosecuted a noise complaint. Know how to do that now. The hearing before the Board of Supervisors for recurrent project in town is the 19th. It's the exact same time as your next board meeting. I will also be out of town that day. So if there was ever a day when I thought we ought to redirect our energies and maybe deal with recurrent as a group, that might be a good day, unless you want to go ahead and hold yours up to the board. But if you want to hold the board that day, Karina will be running it along with Mike.
I will be at the board meeting.
You will be at this board meeting?
No, at that board.
At that board meeting, okay. And I have encouraged the community to speak with one voice. We have gone on record twice, and I have made personal contact with 3 of the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors. I also hear every day from the proponent of the project. Number 3, filing deadline is this Friday at 1700 in Bakersfield to file to run for the board, this board.
Are you sure it's not the following?
I was told it was this Friday.
It's the 14th the way you read it, but that's a Sunday.
I was told this morning that it was this Friday at 1700. I've had a number of calls. We had a remotely controlled aircraft flown by one of our suborbit developers, destroyed as a quarter-scale model craft on the 27th of July in the morning around 7 a.m. Had a couple calls, emails on the matter, discussed it with the FAA. It was operating under FAA circular, which allows remotely controlled aircraft up to a height of 400 feet, and we do this regularly at the field, all through coordination with the tower. Item 5, Kern County and the administrative office has finally approved and submitted to the Federal Economic Development Administration recommendation that they approve our grant request to upgrade our rail spur on the airport. This is something we've been working for 4 years. And we've also been working with our 2 prime rail tenants. So if we get this 50-50 grant, they would then participate in the other side, but it would change our old 70-pound rail to 114-pound rail? 112? An item on a personal note, and I don't do this often, but I'm going to ask the press to put their cameras down for a second. Selected Brownsville, Texas as the new launch facility. They also noticed last week that SpaceX announced Nevada as their gigafactory for batteries. And I hope California gets the message pretty quick. I had 2 personals on that from Sacramento just after the both announcements. Also, next board meeting, and Debbie, I told you this earlier, but Judy at the restaurant has asked to engage us in a new contract, and he's got the terms before us. I'll bring that before you next board meeting.